I'm Dr. Timothy Johnston with Module 9 of our amazing customer service video series. This is probably the most important of all of the modules to give. It's all about leadership. This is how your leadership as a dentist, or a team member maybe, but it ought to come from the dentist, can make or break your customer service, and truly, if it makes it, it can propel you to the top of your game. You can take your office way far and above what anybody else is doing, all through your leadership style. I don't mean management, those are two different words. I mean leadership. Managers tell other people how to do things, leaders show by example. Let's talk about leadership as it relates to our customer service overview. Here we go. Number one, what are the ideal traits for a team member, for a staff member? Doctors, I would love it if you would pause this video now and come up with as many traits, personality traits, as you can possibly think of that you would love to see in a team member. Because let's talk about it. You want to fill your office with these great ladies and men who are just nothing but exemplifying the best part of being a dental office, the best part of you, a reflection of your awesomeness. You want them to create this amazing dental practice out of customer service. So what are some ideal traits? Pause it if you would, come up with a list. I'm back on now if you've paused it, and we're going to go to the next slide and start talking about my own list. And this is just a relatively short list. You could probably be 4 times this much, but I would say honesty is obviously a big thing. Let's go through it kind of quick. If you disagree with any of these, I think you should reevaluate. They should be honest. And ideal traits in a staff member include being compassionate, being a leader within your practice, being selfless, giving of themselves for others, having some maturity so they don't fall apart under stress or misdirection, being open about everything. Have some openness about what they're up to and what they're doing. Have some integrity. In other words, if you say something, do it. Be a person of your word. Have empathy. And this is especially true for your dental patients that come in pain or with something broken, cosmetic embarrassments. Be empathetic. Have a sense of humor. After all, we need to have a lively, engaging opportunity with our patients. Have respect. Again, someone has an issue going on. They don't need anybody to dog them or chastise them for not coming in. Be respectful. Have a positive attitude, right? All these traits are so important, and there's so many more, but these are the kind of traits that describe the ideal staff member, ideal team member working for you. I want to tell you a story now about a gentleman named Darren Hardy. Darren Hardy runs a magazine called Success. Actually, he recently sold it. Had a magazine called Success. And in that magazine, he would interview successful people. Sometimes there were celebrities like Liam Neeson. Sometimes there'd be captains of industry or business persons, and celebrities too. He had this magazine. He's doing very well. He wrote a book. He was giving speeches all over the country. I had the opportunity to meet him the first time through a keynote address that he was giving for a couple of hours at a big meeting I was at. The Compound Effect, Jumpstart Your Income, Your Life, Your Success by Darren Hardy. And it's a fantastic book. I read it. He's a fantastic speaker, very motivational, very inspiring, all around nice guy. I mean, truly, from the podium, he was just a great guy. But Darren had one problem. He had not met the love of his life yet. Now, you would think someone that successful would have already been married, had some kids, done his thing, and made his impact. But he was so focused on his career, he just never took the time to do that. And the ladies he was meeting, they weren't fitting the bill. So Darren had a little bit of a problem. So he put his own mind to it, his compound effect sort of mentality to it, and said, if I did meet my ideal woman, how would I even know it? He goes, I've got to make a list. Like the list that we just made of the ideal traits in a dental staff member, he sat down and made a list of the ideal traits in his spouse that he's never met yet. Well, he said it got to be 5 pages long. So here's a man who takes pickiness to the next level. But it took him, I don't know, weeks, I think, to come up with. He kept adding things. He was particular about everything. Personality, looks, family values. I mean, I can't even imagine. He shared with us some of the things. And it was a lot of deep stuff. It was very, religion and the whole 9 yards. He was very specific about that. He took that list, he studied it, and he said, if I did meet this woman, let's say she came into my life tomorrow, I'd recognize her like that now because I've focused down what's important to me. But what would a woman like that see in a man like me? He said, I don't think I would live up to her expectations. He goes, I'm not even sure that I would qualify to go out on a date with a woman that I think is my ideal mate, because I don't have some of those traits myself. He goes, aha. So he goes, what would a woman like that want to see in her man mate someday? So I sat down, he says, I sat down and I made myself a list from her perspective of what her ideal man would be. Took me a few weeks and it was 5 pages long. Says then I got to work on the list because I started becoming the man that a woman like that would want to be with. I got in better shape, I was more in touch with my spirituality, I connected with my family, blah, blah, blah. You get the idea. He just became a better person. He says, it took me about a year or two to really feel like I had fulfilled my mission of becoming that. And then, like that, I met my wife. And there she is there. That's on their wedding day. You may be thinking that he was going to look for a little blondie, some little blonde cutie Barbie doll. That wasn't on his list. Values, core beliefs, that sort of thing, those were on his list. It was more about what's deep than what's superficial. She had to be pretty. That was pretty. Certainly he married a beautiful woman. But there they are many years later, still happily married. Again, he sold his success business or magazine. He's doing other things now, still very successful himself. But isn't it funny? It took him realizing what it would take for him to become in order to attract the woman he wanted. Have you gotten where I'm going with this yet? What are the traits of a dentist who would attract and retain a staff member with all those ideal traits that we identified, and maybe you identified even more? Well, the list would look a lot alike, wouldn't it? Honest, compassionate, be a leader, be selfless, have some maturity, be open about things, have some integrity, be empathetic, have a good sense of humor, be respectful, have a great positive attitude, all the same. In other words, those lists in a dental office really need to be the same. So, doctor, do you reflect the same traits that you are looking for in a team member? Because if you're grumpy and you don't like Monday mornings and you want to wear a sad face, you want to throw instruments across the room, you don't want to diagnose dentistry properly, whatever. If there's all those things that you don't, how do you expect to attract a staff and a team that will support the ideals that you say you hold valuable, but that you don't exemplify? That would be managing the situation. We're not managers. We're leaders. In dentistry, if you want ultimate success, you need to lead and lead by example. Take Darren Hardy's example. Use that. Become what you are looking for in the reflection in order to achieve having others surround you with that sort of mentality. It will go beyond your wildest dreams at how good that works out. Let's talk about the top 10 things that dental patients want from their dental office. Again, we're talking about leadership. So in the leadership realm, what are you providing for patients? Number 10, they want a convenient location. And by the way, I wonder if you can tell me what number 1 is right off the bat. If you're sitting in a group, pause for a second and try to guess what the top 2 are. You might find it interesting. Convenient location is number 10. A willingness to be upfront about the money involved. That's only number 9, which is interesting. But these are mostly shoppers who want to know, they call it how much is a crown. They want you to say, it's $1,200, it's $1,500, whatever. There might be a core involved. There'll be a charge for an x-ray. Just be upfront and tell them. They'd like that. It's on their list. It's only number 9, but it's on their list. Number 8. A well-explained treatment plan with financial options. I've been talking about that on all these modules. You've got to tell people what it's going to take and be open to their schedule and budget. Give them financial options, cash, check, charge, care credit, spread it out over time, work with your insurance, all that. They want an honest conversation. They've got a schedule, they've got a budget. They don't want you to dilly-dally around it or pussyfoot around it. They want you to get to the meat of it and tell them what it's going to take. It's like patients asking a doctor, what's the diagnosis? Don't jerk it around. Tell me. I want to know. All right. Number 7, the quality of the dentistry is very important to these people, and it's got to be visible in the staff's mouths and the dentist's mouth. Are your staff members walking around with crooked, decayed teeth? Fix them. It costs you nothing but a little bit of time to get that fixed up. Fix your staff. Offer the Invisalign and 6-month smiles if you've got it, do implants, whatever. Get your staff looking straight. And how about you, doctor? Is your smile exemplary of good dentistry? I hope mine is. I know all my staff, they certainly are. They take full advantage of the free dentistry that I can do for them. And they all have beautiful smiles, and they should. I want them to. They should see that. Number 6, prompt emergency service. It can even be auxiliary driven, but somebody needs to call them back. If they called off business hours, you should have a way for them to get a hold of you. I hate answering services. We actually give the doctor's cell phone numbers on our website. Don't believe me? Go look, nordsdental.com or williamsburgdds.com. Same thing. You're going to find my cell number on that page under emergency after hours calls. I've been the senior doctor for 30 years. I still take my own emergency calls. Why? Because it's not that big of a hassle. Most of the time it's going to be, see you Monday. Broke a tooth, it's okay, see you Monday. If you're in pain, it's because of an infection. Let me call an antibiotic in. That takes care of 99% of the emergency calls that we do get. So be appropriately available. And if it's during the day, hey, get an auxiliary in there. If you don't have time to deal with something, bring them in on the schedule, let your assistant go in there and take an x-ray, see what's going on, and come and report it back to you. Number 5 is going to be the patient is happy with the results. Isn't that interesting? Now, I would put that at number 1. What's one of the number 1 things I want from my dental office? Good dentistry. To me, that's what I would have guessed if you asked me to guess it. I want my dentist to be a good dentist and put good dentistry in my mouth. Only made number 5. Interesting. We're focusing on some other things here. Number 4, listen to patients and allow time for questions. If you remember back in module 2 or 3, we talked about the consultation room being used as a living room. It's a conversation. It's not a dictation. We're having a mutual conversation to sort of get to know our patients. Actively listening to people to know where they are and what they're looking for from their dentist. Number 3, they want a thoroughly done exam. Ask permission statements and explain it in detail. In other words, they want people to look in their mouth and tell them what's going on. Shocking. And yet, so many dentists don't do that, do they? They don't tell it all. They piecemeal it out. Well, I see 5 things in there, but I'm only going to tell them about 2. It's probably all I can take. They want an honest evaluation. They want a thorough exam. That's number 3 on the list of a survey of I don't know how many people, thousands, I guess. Interesting that people expect it and think that maybe they're not getting it. If they had to put it on their list, maybe they don't feel they're getting it. Number 2, they want you to be on time. The number 2 thing of all things in a dental office that they want you to do is to be on time. Should you be paying more attention to that? I certainly do. We run a tight ship. We are on time. I'll do anything I can to stay on time. Stay on time. Your patients expect it. They want it. That's the number 2 thing. So what's number 1? They want to be numb. Profound anesthesia. What does that mean? It means too many dentists start working before their patients are numb, or they didn't give enough, or they didn't give a good block, or whatever. Patients are terrified of feeling it. Their number 1 expectation they want from their dental practice is simply to be numb as a board and be on time. They didn't talk about money in the top 2. They didn't talk about the quality of the dentistry, your location. That's all later. Be numb and be on time. That's powerful. You can use that as a leader. Talk to your staff. Let's be on time. Let's get them numb. If you're doing lower arches, just give 2 carpules right off the bat. I always do. 1 carpule, they're numb about 75, 80% of the time, right? Go a couple of millimeters north from your first one, give a whole nother carpule, doesn't hurt anybody, and it gets them more numb. What you want to ask is, after all that list, are we that office or are we that office? There's a big difference in those 2 words because that office is amazing. That office, I wouldn't send my worst enemy to. And people will talk about you with that tone of voice depending on which side of the spectrum you fall on. Because that office never gets you numb enough. And the doctor's always late. But that office is great. And he's never hurt me ever. And he's always on time. Sometimes he's waiting for me in the room. That office, that's where you want to be. I'm done. Isn't that a nice, fun module to end on? Leadership is probably the most important and often neglected aspect of running your practice. Don't be a manager, be a leader. Turn your people on by being on yourself all the time. Thanks for watching.